We are live. It is January 16th. I shouldn't have had to pause that long. It's my wife's birthday. So I know what date it is because I've been thinking about it to make sure that I didn't forget that it was birthday. So January 16th, my wife's birthday, and we are here to answer your questions. I'm looking at my camera. I'm like, man, I look rough today. I don't know what's going on, but like my eyes are watering and they're all puffy. Whew. I don't know if it's allergies or something like that, but yeah, I've been sitting there editing video and trying to make sure that my wife has a good day. The Disney Nerd. Good afternoon, Mr. Chandler. How are you this afternoon? I am good. Good. Just having a family day and trying to get this video of my favorite movie of every letter of the alphabet done. It's taken a long, long time. So it'll be out tomorrow. It's supposed to come out today. That's what I announced, but it'll be tomorrow. So, yeah, that happens. Zachary, hello there. Hello there. Rich Reeves, what would Lincoln say in times like these? I would not presume to know what Lincoln would say about times like these, since there's so many things that have changed in the last 150 years that trying to make a point of reference for how he would respond to current events, don't think I'd be able to do that. Zachary, my first Patreon Q&A. Cool, cool. They're fun because it's just me and you guys. There's normally going to be 10, 15 people in here, so I remember everybody and have some back and forth. So they're nice. Like the Q&As on my main channel, there's 200 people in there, so there's just, I'm doing my best to answer questions, but it just has a different vibe where I can actually go back and forth and get to everybody's questions. Gamerman X9000, with Chris Evans and the MCU dealing with the multiverse, do you think he will be playing Human Torch? I would guess that wouldn't surprise me at all if they do Human Torch. That wouldn't surprise me one bit because they've been the talk has been that they're going to do alternate versions of characters. And there've been talks maybe Tom Cruise is going to come in as Tony Stark. And so how do you do something really fun with it? Well, Chris Evans has played multiple different characters, so you have him come in as the other character. And it also, how do you bring Chris Evans back in a way that's a lot of fun, but it doesn't feel like they're undermining his finale? You don't want it to feel like they're afraid of leaving behind the past. They don't trust their current set, so they got to bring someone back. You don't want it to feel like that. But, what would be a nice way to bring it back is Human Torch in the multiverse. So I think that that's probably one of the more plausible reasons they would do it, and that feels more trustworthy to me. I don't know. I really don't want them to bring him back as an actual story. Like, people are like, do you want him to tell a story about him returning the Infinity Stones? No. It's kind of interesting. It is an interesting idea. There is a story there. I think the problem is that I want the universe to go forward, not backwards. And so for them to use up one of their TV show slots, one of their movie slots, to go backwards to answer a question that doesn't really need to be answered, I just don't want that. Thomas Jones, hey Sean, hope you're well. If you had to pick one character from The Office to have their own spin-off series, who would it be? Same question with Parks and Recreation. I don't know. It's really tough to do that because those shows work because of the ensemble. So the idea of, they tried to do a spinoff with Dwight. They did a backdoor pilot with him with the farm. But Dwight works in contrast to the normalness of the other characters. So I don't think it necessarily works to, like, would you want to see Jim get his own show in Austin, Texas? Well, the Jim show, you would have, I like Jim because of his relationship with Pam, Dwight, Michael, these other characters. So I really don't have someone that I would be like, I want them to spin them off, because I would have to know what this other cast is. But these shows were so designed for the ensembles that they're in. Same with Parks and Rec. It's an ensemble show. So I don't know what that would look like. That's why spin-offs tend to not work all that well, because that you write design characters for the movie for the show. So I really don't have an answer. David Patterson, do you think you'll rank WandaVision alongside the rest of the MCU, or will you keep your movies and shows separate? I through that I've seen, and it's at least number 8 so far. Well, I mean, I think right off the bat, anytime if you start ranking it based off 3 episodes, I think you're being, um, it's presumptuous to do that. Like when you don't even know what's going on. I mean, I wouldn't even begin to know where to start to rank something without like the plot's not even established yet. We're just watching a sitcom in the MCU, so I wouldn't even I couldn't even begin to even speculate as to where I would place it. So my there's 23 movies right now. That's already an incredibly difficult video to rank, or to make, because to have something new to say, to write 26 or 23 mini reviews, to film that, it's over 2 hours of filming, and then that turns into hours and hours of editing. It's very difficult to do a video of 23 movies. So if they're going to crank out 3 movies this year plus 3-4 TV shows, we're up to 30. And then after that, next year, it's up to like 38. So I wouldn't make that a regular thing. Simply on a practical level, it would be incredibly difficult and draining for me to do that. So I wouldn't want to. Beyond that, I typically speaking don't combine movies and TV shows because they're different things. And case in point, to my point of like, how do you, I don't even know how you would rank part of 3 episodes, or I guess you've only seen 2 episodes. I've seen 3 episodes of WandaVision. You've only seen 2 episodes. How would you compare that to a movie? It wouldn't. They're just such wildly different things. It's wildly different storytelling. So I don't like to rank movies and TV shows together. Will I at some point in time, maybe one time per year, instead of doing an MCU ranking or instead of doing a ranking of the TV shows, will I do a combined one? I'm sure I'll do that for the novelty of it. I'm sure that'll happen, but it absolutely won't be the regular. It's not like every 3 months I'm going to crank out this thing that just keeps growing and growing and growing. But that's one way to add variety into, instead of just updating, doing the same thing, by being able to do that. Yeah, I have plans to. But once a year, once every 2 years, it won't be a regular occurrence. Zach, I know what isn't what movie related. What are some upcoming 2021 games you're looking forward to and are interested in? I mean, you can ask me about whatever you want, so you don't have to. There's nothing tying this to movies, TV, Marvel, or anything like that. This is an Ask Me Anything, so feel free to ask away. I don't follow games nearly as much, so honestly, to some extent, I just don't even know what's coming out. Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, I've been waiting for that one because my kids are really into the Lego games. I'm obviously into Star Wars, so that provides something interesting that would be fun that I could actually play through with my kids. They're also multiplayer games, so that's one that's very much on my radar. The Gotham Knights game is coming out this year. That's on my radar. But from there, I don't really know what's coming out. I mean, maybe, let's see. Most anticipated games 2021. See if anything pops up that immediately catches my eye. It looks like a new Halo game, perhaps. There was going to be that Harry Potter game, but then they got delayed. Diablo 4 might come out this year. If Diablo 4 comes out, I'll be all in on that. Gotham Knights, of course, and I'll cover that on my channel. Yeah, doing a quick little look. I'm just not seeing much. I don't follow games enough to know. Paul Silva, first Q&A, I tested positive for COVID. Oh, man, I'm sorry about that. Quarantine, any recommendations for movies? I have all the major streaming services. And I'm very sorry to hear about that. It's scary times. So, I mean, the movie I always default to recommending is Warrior. That's always my go-to recommendation whenever someone asks me, hey, what do you recommend? Watch the movie Warrior. Everyone I know that's seen it has either liked it or loved it, and it's an underwatched film, therefore normally people haven't seen it. From there, I'm about to put up a video tomorrow of my favorite movie from every letter of the alphabet. That's my favorite lists are always recommendation lists. I did videos back when COVID first started on what to watch on, I think, HBO Max, Amazon Prime and Netflix. They've shuffled their content, but those movies would all still be recommendations. So Warrior is my default one that I just generically recommend whenever someone asks. From there, I normally point people to videos because everybody's different. Everybody's seen different things. Everybody likes different things. So it's tough for me to be like, have a list of 10 movies. Hey, you should check this out. What? I mean, if you're my age, there's a certain set of movies you've probably seen that if you're 16 you probably haven't seen. There's a lot of things that I don't actually like making generic recommendations because it's tough. So that's why I kind of point people to some of these videos. Iker, hey Sean, what's your favorite WandaVision episode, ad, and opening? So I've seen 3 episodes, and you probably know that. But of the 3 episodes, the first one is my least favorite. There's not big variation. It's not like, oh, that one sucks, but the third one, it's not like that. They're all kind of right there in the same kind of category. All of them are amusing to me. All of them are so different and weird that I don't know how to process them. So 2 and 3, I thought 2 was probably the most entertaining for me. 3 gives just a little bit more plot. It's still a sitcom. It's still a sitcom plot. It's set in the 70s for this one, so it's like the Brady Bunch. It's that type of show is what it's kind of like, or Mary Tyler Moore show, but it's like at the Brady Bunch house. But it gives a little bit more. It more overtly addresses kind of what's going on, but only a little bit. It's not a ton. So, which one's my favorite opening? I'm trying to remember which one's. I mean, I guess the second one with them with the 2 beds that they felt like one of those shows. Plus, it got a little bit saucy for the MCU there and had consequences at the end of the episode. And then favorite ad. I don't know. I couldn't pick one of the ads. They haven't really stuck out to me. The Disney era. I recently checked out the Studio Ghibli film called Spirited Away. Have you seen it? If you haven't, I definitely recommend it. Yeah, my buddy Andy came over and showed it to me. I mean, that people ask me to rank Studio Ghibli all the time. To my knowledge, the only one I've seen is Spirited Away, and I mean that movie is the polar opposite of the way my brain is wired. So afterward, Andy's like, "Hey, did you get all the analogies and the metaphors?" And no, I don't get any of it. It just was like a movie where a bunch of weird stuff happened. It's like I can respect all the talent that went into it, and I can appreciate that other people would love the film. But I just saw a film that just not on my wavelength whatsoever. That's when people are like, hey, you should rank the Studio Ghibli films. I'm just probably not the right person for that. Shashake, hey Sean, I hope you're doing well. Yesterday I saw on Twitter notifications that a guy with 13 subscribers asked to collaborate with you. How do you react when you see questions of these kinds? So he was joking, and I knew he was joking. There are people that do kind of ask me seriously to do that. And it kind of always depends on how busy I am. Sometimes I'm just like in a mood that I just want to talk movies with people. So sometimes I'll do it. Like I've done many collaborations with people under 100 subscribers, and just because I like to talk movies, I don't ever want to be unapproachable. I don't ever want that to be kind of the issue. For me, I'm more likely to just say no if it just doesn't seem like they're ready. Legitimately, like I look at their channel and they don't kind of have that enough of a kind of a get it factor, or the equipment, or like just not that I'm looking for super slick, it's not that, but just a certain level to which it seems like they've moved beyond basic hobby level to something more. And then if I can help them out by talking or whatever that might be, I'm kind of open to it. But I try to be gracious with it. I try to, even that's like some stuff on my second channel, Real Creators, that I start doing a lot more on. Actually, starting tomorrow. That's where some of those people that I try to do resources there to be like, hey, with collaborations, don't ask someone 1,000,000 times bigger than you to collaborate, because there's just too big of a gap that it's you don't really help either one of you. But so it kind of depends. Like I jokingly kind of responded to the guy and he joked back, but it's kind of a little bit different for everybody. Rich Review says, favorite Michael Apt film. Let me have to look up who Michael Apt is. think you're going outside of my realm of expertise on this one. Um, yeah, I don't know that I have spent enough time watching his films to have any sort of strong preference. There's several in here that I have seen, but he's not one that there's a standout on there. Sorry about that. Jay Studert, hey Sean, just joined Patreon yesterday. How annoyed are you when people ask questions you have videos to? It depends. It depends on it. Like yesterday, I was at a family dinner. My wife's birthday is today, and her dad's birthday, it might have been yesterday or it's tomorrow. It's like right now. They're both of their birthdays are right next to each other. So we're at a family dinner. I just kind of pull out my phone and open it up to see like check my messages real quick while sitting there because I was on the side of the table with all the kids, so the blood family could talk. And I see gets a message from someone being like, "Hey man, what do you think about WandaVision?" And I'm like, I posted a spoiler review today. I posted a spoiler-free review yesterday. I posted all across social media on the page that you are looking at right now about watching it 3 days ago. Like I've spent 4 days posting about how I've seen it, I've talked about it, promoting my videos about it, and then someone goes, "Hey, what do you think about WandaVision?" And so I just linked to the video and he's, "Oh, thanks." And so it's kind of a weird situation for me because I have to always constantly think, how are all the ways I've done that to other people? How are all the ways I do that to other people? That I just ask them directly instead of searching for the answer. Like, and I do that all the time too. And so it's just tough for me because every video that I've ever created, I'm just as much connected to as every other video that I've ever done. I just sat at this same desk, talked into a camera right here in front of me, and then I edited it. And so whether it's a small video or a large video, I'm still connected to it. Whereas there's 1,500 videos. There's no reason that everybody would know those videos are out there. So it really depends on how obscure the video is. When people frequently ask me, "Hey, what's your thoughts on Shawshank Redemption?" I have a public video on Shawshank Redemption that anybody, if you just search Sean Chandler Shawshank Redemption, it comes up. I also talked about it in an IMDb ranking, so I have thoughts on it. But it's not an obvious one that someone would know that's out there. Or on Patreon, you guys can have a recent one from just 6 months ago with my current updated thoughts on it, if you didn't know that existed. But so someone asked about that. Sometimes I'm like, I wish they'd use search, but hey, actually, here I have some thoughts on it. But when someone asks me about something I just made a video about, "Hey man, are you going to make a video about this trailer?" I did. Like that. So some of those ones, I don't know how to, I don't know. I'm still working on being a little bit more patient with them. I think in general I'm pretty good about not just freaking out on people, but I could certainly grow in my wife hears about all of it. Like, they asked me about, I just put the video, like it's right there. There's a premiere and they... So sometimes I can get like that. Zachary, if you were to be interviewed by a talk show host, what would it be? Which talk show host would I be interviewed by? Probably Conan O'Brien of them. Conan O'Brien's my favorite. Going all the way back to the 90s, I've just enjoyed his weird, oddball sense of humor. Crashing Coyote, have you ever watched the UFC? Do you have any predictions on Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier fight next weekend? No. Actually, real quick, I got something. You mentioned that. I've watched it here and there. I've never followed it. I've been trying to follow it for a while. A year ago, I made plans like in 2020, I'm really going to follow this. Had friends that I was like going to go over to their house to watch fights with them. And then COVID hit and it was like, don't be around your friends anymore. So I stopped. So actually, as you said that, mentioned that, I would be interested in watching it. I literally just put in my phone to text that person once this is over to see if they're watching it next weekend. But I don't have any predictions because I don't follow any of it. I'm interested. I like watching fights and stuff like that, but I've just never been a part of kind of that community or anything like that. So, but literally, maybe I'll watch that one. Andy, a friend brought up the idea of Chris Evans playing a Skrull, pretending to be Steve. What do you think about that? I like anything that's small and a fun tease, I'm game with. If he comes back as Human Torch in a multiverse deal, that's fun. If in the multiverse he just shows up in some context, if he shows up in Secret Wars as a Skrull for a little bit, something that's a tease that's just like a, hey, look, he's still one of our friends. There's no reason that we couldn't dabble. There's a lot of dabbling potential. He could be Old Man Steve as a mentor. What I don't want is, oh man, people. I don't know if people are responding well to WandaVision, so let's bring Steve Rogers back and have him return the stones. That's what I don't want. So I'd be game for it. I'd be cool with that. Alex Strautherice, do you have a favorite decade for horror movies? I personally think we are in a new golden age for the genre. Yeah, right now actually is a good time period because there's a lot of stuff going on. That if you like demon possession stuff, the Conjuring, at least the mainline Conjuring, I really dig James Wan's Conjuring movies. But then you've also got like the A24 high art ones that are outside the box, very different. Then you have the Jordan Peele social commentary horror going on. You've got the revival of Halloween. Right now, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. And then, of course, Blumhouse. Blumhouse, I love what they're doing. I hate half the movies they put out, but I love what they're doing because I think it's a good business model. Oh, the Happy Death Day guy, the Happy Death Day, the freaky guy. I love what that guy's doing. There's a bunch of stuff with horror that no matter it, whereas in the 80s, it was slasher movies. In the late 90s, it was the Kevin Williamson self-referential comedy ones that I love those. But like that's what they were. And then the zeros, it was torture porn. Right now, it's a bunch of different stuff. So I think you're onto something there that like right now is a really nice time for the genre because so much different stuff is coming out. The ones that I connect with the most, that late 90s, the Kevin Williamson stuff, that's my high school era. That's kind of when I fell in love with the movie. So that's kind of what I default to. But I think there is something special going on right now. Gamerman, what are your thoughts on Stephen Amell saying he's open to doing an Arrow season 9? I mean, he said he's open to it because he's there for a TV show. And so he's in Vancouver where they shoot the Arrowverse shows. And so he's like, while I'm here, while all this is going on, there's complications with his new show. So he threw it over to the writers that, hey, what do you make of this? If I'm open to it, if you're open to it. So he kind of threw something out there. I mean, nothing's going to come of it because just because he's free doesn't mean that they can write 10 scripts and get $20 million. I don't know what a 10 season, whatever it would be, whatever it costs. I mean, they map out these seasons and they integrate with crossovers. There's a whole process for it. So, like the idea of him saying that, it seems like a weird thing for him to say because I don't even. It sounds like he doesn't even know how TV shows are made, which obviously he does. Obviously, he's a part of this process. And even his current show, Arrow ended, and he signed on for this new show, and then there was this 10-month gap before, a year-long gap before he started shooting it. And so I thought it was odd. Do I want him to come back for Arrow season 9? No, because there's nothing to do there. It's like there's nowhere to go with it. As you're well aware, I don't like where they ended with season 8. They wrote themselves into a corner with season 7, and so there's just nothing of interest there to me. So it just kind of gets odd if they try and do that. Zachary, could you do a showdown style with the 2020 Disney Plus Marvel seasons? I don't know what I'm gonna do but I'm gonna do all. That's of course something I'm gonna lean into heavily. Marvel is the most popular content on my channel. I love the MCU, and rankings are my deal. So I don't know what all they will look like. The possibility that I would do a showdown style ranking is very possible, but I'll do normal rankings, so there'll be a whole bunch of them. I don't know exactly what they'll all look like, but it's entirely on the table. And it's small enough that I could do that. Like, Marvel 23 movies or MCU 23 movies, I can't do showdown style, but for like 4 or 5 Disney Plus shows at the beginning, I still could. So that puts it in its favor. Dayton, do you see yourself re-ranking the Superman films? Yeah, it almost happened last year. It could have happened last year if Wonder Woman. So my plan last year, when Wonder Woman's going to come out in June, I was going to rank all of the DC movies, all 40, 50 of them, when that happened. And therefore, I was going to watch all of them. So as I watched through them, you get a few extra rankings out of that, like the Superman movies. And I have a ranking of the Superman movies, but it's from the beginning of my rankings, my editing, my analysis, everything is different now and how I do them. So I would feel comfortable re-ranking it. Some people are like, why are you milking this? Well, because my quality has raised. You can just rewatch it, and it's not what I do now. So I was going to do it last year, and then it got delayed to August, and so then I didn't watch those Superman movies in time to do that video, and then it got pushed back again to October, and once again I started watching them, preparing to do that. Then it got pushed to Christmas, and I went, I can't do that DC video at Christmas. There's too many other things I need to do at Christmas time for family obligations, end of the year list, New Year's list, ranking all the movies of the year, that I couldn't do this massive DC project at that time. So then I pushed that back. It's probably going to happen with Suicide Squad. So I would guess this year you will get me a re-ranking of the Superman movies. I would assume that's going to happen. Not a guarantee, but I would assume it. Iker, I read this online that critics will get episodes 4 through 9 of WandaVision next week. Is that true? No, I don't think that's true. The email that I got, that one of my other friends got, the guy that actually helped me get into Wonder Woman early, what we were told in our emails was, after this, if we want access, a screener access from Disney, we'll get it after it goes public. So that's not helpful. So no, I don't think that's true. That's not what I've heard. That's the opposite. That's actually literally the opposite of what they told me. So basically, I've already shot my review for episode 3, and after that, it's going to be Mandalorian style. I'm going to wake up 7 a.m. Friday, watch it, shoot my video, and post it. Assuming people still want to keep watching them. Rich Reviews, ever seriously consider doing a video about where film, movies, TV shows, about where they film movies and TV shows in your area? Yeah, I actually kind of have. If you don't know, I live in Austin, Texas. And I mention little things like this all the time, but the TV show Friday Night Lights, the stadium you see in the opening credits, it's 1 mile that way. When there are football games on Friday Night Lights, like I hear them. Right? Like I hear them through my wall, especially if I'm in this room. And you can see the bright lights. You can't really see the stadium, but you can see the bright lights when it's nighttime and everything's going on. They shot Transformers 4 about 8 miles that way in Taylor. The Friday Night Lights, the school from the pilot, it's across the street from my mom's house. There's a big ice cream cone. It's a block from my mom's house. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies were kind of shot around here. So I've thought about it. I just don't know I'd have to figure out the right angle to do it. I've thought about, because there's so many Texas Chainsaw Massacre shooting locations around here, when I do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre ranking to shoot it around. But I just don't know. Zachary, I pre-ordered Lego Star Wars game Christmas 2019. It's been a full year before I actually get it. Yeah, that's, I've been waiting for it. And it keeps not coming out. Disney Nerd, I feel like I have to point this out. You looked really confused at what you were opening when I sent you the Iron Man heart. The thing was packed tight. Yeah, well, it was packed. See, forgot to turn it on. So if you don't know, the Disney Nerd sent me this Iron Man heart for Christmas, and so I opened it in a fan mail, and I'm open, I don't have a context sometimes, so I open it up and it's just a box, and I'm like, okay, what is this? And I open the box and it doesn't say anything on it. It doesn't say Iron Man art. It doesn't say anything like that. I just open it up and there's styrofoam. I'm like, what is going on? And I think there was a little card that said something that hinted at what it was. And I was like, wait a minute, is this what? And then I open it up and then you see it and it was like, whoa. So it took a little bit for me to soak it in, but yeah, I didn't know what was going on when I first opened. I was like, what on earth is it? Who is this? And it wasn't your name on it. It was the name of the guy that I guess manufactures them. Carlin Nixon, who would you like to see make an appearance in season 4 of Cobra Kai? Silver, Barnes, Julie, Jessica. I think Silver. I think Terry Silver was pretty clearly going to show up. There's so many heavy indicators of Terry Silver in the second half of the season in that final phone call that seems almost guaranteed. If they don't do it, it's weird. Barnes, I don't know how much sense he makes to bring him in, because he was a jerk, but he was kind of just a pawn, but not in a way that was not in a Johnny kind of way. Johnny's kind of an interesting story of someone that had a bad teacher. but Mike Barnes was kind of a really mean, nasty person. So Mike Barnes, I think, is harder to bring in a way that seems meaningful and makes sense. Julie would be interesting because we've never seen, as Hilary Swank, we've never seen Hilary Swank with Ralph Macchio. And so they're the two students of Mr. Miyagi. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if it's season 4, but if they keep on going, which they've said they would, that would make sense. And Jessica, I don't think it makes any sense to bring her in. No one cares about her. That's the girl from the third one, I believe. I could be wrong. You could also, if there's a way to do it, bring in the Jaden Smith. That would be interesting. Because there's no reason they can't be in continuity. So that was where it would be interesting to me. And if you watch the show, Will Smith is a producer on it because I guess he owns the rights or somewhere in there. So he's a producer, though I doubt he does anything related to it. Adam Gunther, would you ever see a James Bond TV series, or do you believe that 007 franchise should stay as movies only? I mean, I think spy shows can work very well. I mean, Alias has shown that, and many others. But I think at this point in time, they're billion-dollar films, so there's no reason that they would convert down to a TV show. If it was a different time frame, but these Daniel Craig movies are so big, the spectacle is so large that I don't think that they could downgrade at this point. But I absolutely think it could work, and I think you could do a lot of really interesting things with it, because one of the problems I think they run into right now is the expectation of it being a billion-dollar film, which requires explosions and globe-trotting and things like that in a way that's... Where's this guy back there? Someone's sneaking in behind me. Whereas spy stuff has a lot of espionage that I think gets lost from James Bond because of the demand of spectacle. Crashing, I'm the only person who would love to see Ralph Macchio and William Zabka go head-to-head in a Schmodown Karate Cobra Kai special with Paul Walter Hauser being a guest judge. No, just me? Okay, then. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that. I mean, if they announced that, I'm sure people would go bananas to see a movie trivia tournament between the two of them. I mean, I don't think you are in any way, shape, or form alone in that one. That if you could get them on board, I think it would be a lot of fun. Shashake, Sean, I got a copy of a movie warrior after your recommendation. Your videos and how close the movie is to you would be checking out this week. We'll let you know what I thought of it. Very cool. Josh Meyer, thoughts on 3 movies: Frequency, Tango and Cash, and Hollow Man. Frequency is one of my wife's favorite movies. Actually, interesting, it didn't show up in her top favorite movies, but she loves the movie Frequency, and she's the one that I think might have introduced me to it. But if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like a father-son story about and there's like a radio that communicates over time, and so a kid in a grown man in the present is communicating with his dad in the past, just like it's that sort of thing. It's an interesting concept, and it's Jim Caviezel and Dennis Quaid. It's a just pretty cool little film, and they did a TV show out of it like 5 years ago that actually wasn't... I didn't see all of it, but it wasn't too bad. Tango and Cash is a Kurt Russell, Sylvester Stallone buddy cop film with Jack Palance as the villain that I've never liked as much as I feel like I should. I, of course, enjoy it, but I don't think it's as good as the concept of Kurt Russell and Stallone doing a buddy cop film together. Hollow Man, it's Paul Verhoeven, and I love Paul Verhoeven, so that's a lot of fun. I saw it in the theater. Of Paul Verhoeven films, it's not one that's as of his kind of like big spectacle ones. It's not one of the ones that's popped out more to me. I'd go with Starship Troopers, Total Recall, RoboCop over Hollow Man, but I've always enjoyed it. Zachary, thoughts on Ethan Hawke being cast as the Moon Knight main villain? Sounds great to me. I'm all on board with it. Sounds like a good plan. Zach, have you seen Wolf of Wall Street? If you have, what do you think of it? I watched it and loved it so much. I've seen about half of it. I haven't seen all of it, unfortunately. So people tell me all the time it's amazing, but I've only seen half of it. Dayton, what is your favorite animated Batman movie? Mask of the Phantasm. It's easily the best of the bunch. It's it was a spinoff from the TV show, but it captures all the magic of it. It's an origin story. It's got an original villain. It's got all kinds of greatness in there. Rich Reviews, what would be your pitch as a Friday the 13th movie reset in the 80s? I don't know if I'd put the restriction on it of setting in the 80s, because I think that kind of eliminates the point of doing it, because we already have 10 set in the 80s. And so the concept where there's room to do something new and different is if it's set in a different time period, and you kind of take this concept of the camp with the misbehaving counselors that a child gets neglected. That's kind of different in 19. Well, actually, I guess the death was like 1960. Then the film was 1980. But you take that concept and you put it now, and it's a little bit different with technology. It's even kind of the undertones of these misbehaving doing drugs on each other is a little bit different now than it was then. So my pitch wouldn't be set in the 1980s because I just don't know. There's nothing interesting to do in the 80s. It's interesting if you set it now and change the technology. You change the cultural zeitgeist expectations. That's where I think there's room for it. And I think that's what my pitch would be. You kind of, I don't know if you redo the first one, but you kind of combine the first one and second one together, perhaps. You want Jason in there. That's the tricky part of also rebooting it of the original one. He's not the actual killer. And kind of work in some of the oddities of modern 20-year-olds in social media, in live streaming, with the idea that they're at a camp misbehaving while a killer starts coming after them, and you wonder how much would people even believe some of this stuff. So anyway, that's that's the quick version, but it's very much, you said it right now. That's what's interesting to me. Iker, will you continue the prequel rewrites? Yeah, I mean, it's totally on my radar, but it's really hard because I wrote myself into a corner of sorts because I wrote it in a way that it's a totally different second film, so I have to pitch a totally new film and try and tie in all this lore and everything, and so it's just really tough to not make a new set of mistakes. Fix the ones that George did and then create my own. That's the tricky part. Dave Patterson, watched The Untouchables last night at school. It was great. Now we're near my favorite Mafia movie, but what more competitive than the Olympics? Thoughts? I love The Untouchables. It is my favorite Mafia movie. But, I a lot of some of the actors to it, kind of the, even the vibe and the aesthetic of it, it's a little bit more Hollywoodian slick than a Scorsese Mafia movie, and I enjoy that stuff about it, and the mentoring from Sean Connery and everything. So I love The Untouchables, and that is the one that I list as my favorite Mafia movie. Matt G, thoughts on the now defunct X-Men franchise 2000 to 2020? It's insane to think that they started the comic book movie boom, but then got surpassed in popularity to the MCU and the DCU and became a third party. Well, I mean, it's not surprising though, because the MCU was able to build off of X-Men, build off of Spider-Man. So at the point of X-Men, that's really kind of the kickoff of the modern era of comic book movies. They're just kind of different before that. And Blade did a little bit of groundwork, but X-Men really kind of kicked it off. And you're trying to set up a tone and a vibe, and Kevin Feige was able to take 8 years of lessons of what happened in those 8 years, and there's a lot of experiments in there that didn't work. Daredevil with Ben Affleck is one that people pick on all the time, and Fantastic Four. Those are experiments that helped them discover the MCU, helped them discover how to get the tone right, and the X-Men being kind of this early one. And so I think they got themselves in trouble by trying to keep the continuity going. And then they're like, what if we did a prequel, but it's a kind of prequel? And they did a lot of stuff like that I think got them in trouble. And so it always felt a little bit like a dated franchise. But I mean, it's still, you're talking about the MCU as a whole, or at Marvel as a whole, DC as a whole, or X-Men. Well, X-Men is a subset of Marvel, so it's not. If you put it in those terms, was the first two Captain America movies more popular than the X-Men movies? Not really. I mean, Winter Soldier's now incredibly praised, but it wasn't nearly as big of a hit as it is a praised film. And so, if you compare the franchises inside of the MCU, some of them are very comparable to what the X-Men film franchise was doing, and the MCU as a whole just kept building on its own popularity, so that after you had the first Avengers, after you especially had the second Avengers and went into Phase 3, the franchises as a whole just built up and built momentum as a whole, where X-Men didn't manage to do that. Dayton, I remember you saying you didn't like Blade Runner. Can you explain your thinking? Yeah, it's a it's an ambiguous film that has characters speaking in poetry and weird imagery, and have always been a concrete thinker type person. And so a bunch of things that other people say are brilliant about it just don't mean much of anything to me. So I watched the second one. It explores the same ideas, but in a more concrete fashion. And I resonate with the themes and the sci-fi aesthetic. But, Rutger Hauer in the rain reciting poetry as he dies doesn't do anything for me. Thomas Jones, when is your favorite movie beginning with every letter of the alphabet? Sean, looking forward to it. It'll be tomorrow. It's almost done being edited, but it just between. So basically, I actually took this week off primarily from my main channel because I was trying to work on some other stuff because I want to kind of work on my YouTube expert side of stuff in the year 2021. So I was doing some behind the scenes work on that, and I thought maybe I'd be able to get the alphabet video shot a little bit sooner, and then that didn't end up happening. And it even took me a little longer to write it because it's tough to V. Okay, what are all the possible V movies? There's some are easy, like Jurassic Park. I know that's going to be an easy, like all these ones behind me, pretty easy. But other ones, not so easy. They just took a while. So 10 minutes before I walked up here to start this video, I finished putting in all my B-roll. I've got a couple images I need to put in it, and then I can render it, and it'll come out tomorrow. Gamerman, do you know John Rhys Davies, who played Gimli in Lord of the Rings, was Sala in Indiana Jones? Mm-hmm. Yep, of course. Yeah. Yeah, I know who he is. Josh Myers, why don't you use your setup with the red background? It's primarily a matter of this one is just the default. All my stuff is right here. There's a desk in front of me, and the desk is behind me over there. My mic that's on a boom doesn't work as well. Even if I have the boom from my mic in front of me, some of the stuff's powered by my computer. It's just all these complications to it, to where if I shoot at my red desk over in that corner, then I have to bring in extra chairs and stuff, so my laptop's sitting on a chair awkwardly. That's literally the reason why that it's not as good of a setup. This one right here, I walk in, I plug in this one little nub right here into my laptop, turn my lights on, and I'm good to go. If it's that one, I have to do all this other stuff, so it's just more work. The Disney Nerd. So I added a bunch of Marvel movies to my MCU collection. I added Avengers 1 and 2, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, and Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Very cool. Quinn Michael, hey Sean, I was curious if you're willing to have an email-to-email interview for a college paper I'm writing. If not, totally cool. Yeah, I do. I do those sorts of things almost every single month. So yeah, email away. And if it kind of depends on what you want me to do. Sometimes it's easier for me sometimes to just hop on and do a quick Zoom call to answer your questions, something like that, rather than having to write a paper for you over a series of emails. Iker, after WandaVision ends, will you rank the episodes? Yeah. I would assume that would happen. I can't guarantee that. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult with a show like this. It's tricky because I don't know if I want to ranking sitcom episodes is kind of different from ranking Mandalorian episodes. Even doing these recaps is a little bit weird. So I plan on doing a bunch of stuff. Marvel's my most popular content, so I absolutely plan on doing a bunch of WandaVision content. It's just so different that it kind of throws my wiring of how all this works off. Richie Reeves, are you going to try and make it to South by Southwest this year? I don't think so. I think 2020 sort of helped me reset in my expectations of what I can and can't do and who I am. And I talk about movies, but I am a more mainstream kind of person in what I like. And I don't need to pretend to be something other than that. I like going to film festivals, and there's things like that I enjoy some of these things and experiences, but I can't think about that as a way to expand my channel. That's not really the direction I think is probably best or natural for me or what I'm really trying to be. And if especially with the complications of South by Southwest and the Corona era. I don't know if that's going to happen. Cody, Crashing Cody, are you excited for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2? It's supposed to release fall 2021. If no delays, I low-key hope it's called Star Wars Fallen Jedi and Cal is tempted by the dark side. Yes, mostly. That I'm excited for it in the sense that it's a Star Wars game. I hope they fix some of my frustrations with the first game. So I certainly would check it out, get it whenever it comes out. I was pretty frustrated by the way the levels were designed in the original and how it's kind of like Uncharted in Star Wars World, except they're open world maps, and so you can go down a map and get lost an hour into it and have to spend an hour trying to figure out how to get back. That stuff was not fun for me at all. Gamerman, did you know Sean Connery was considered for the role of Gandalf and Nicolas Cage for Aragon? I'd heard about Sean Connery. I don't think I'd heard about Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage seems like a much bigger stretch because he's just such a distinct style that does not match Lord of the Rings whatsoever. So I don't know how far down that path they went on that one. Sorry, man. After a Marvel show is over, are you going to rank them with the movies or separate ranking? We actually already talked about this in here. I mean, there's 23 movies, and they're looking to do 3 more movies this year, plus like 3-4 shows. That's a ranking of 30 by the end of this year. That's too much to do regularly. And if they're looking to do 6, 7 things, I'm not going to do a ranking of that nature every single time. So what I would do is I would have a variety of things that I do. Maybe once a year, once every 2 years, I'd rank them together for the novelty of it. But I don't like to rank movies and TV shows together because they're different things. They're designed differently. They're different storytelling mechanisms. So I think whenever you try and talk about things that are different categories, it is apples and oranges. Apples and oranges are both fruits. They have a lot of similarities, but they are different things. Matt G, when are you doing a video on the X-Men 2022 continuity? That could be your most challenging video. I don't do videos really trying to sort through, explain things. That's not normally what I do, and I wouldn't be interested in trying to explain something that they weren't interested in trying to keep consistent. Hey Sean, can you post more behind-the-scenes videos and vlogs on the second channel? I enjoy your families. I loved your Nerf video. I mean, I have one shot already. Here's just stop and look at what I've put out on my main channel since mid-December. It's basically been a non-stop series of long rankings, top 10s, 20 episodes of The Mandalorian ranked. With my end of the year videos, there's a companion video to it that's on Patreon. I did a live stream of 86 movies, Cobra Kai characters. That's what I've been doing the last month. So I just haven't had time. I was up till after midnight last night editing the video that's supposed to come out today, and then I spent 4 hours today editing it, and it's not done yet. And I don't even know where to begin on my thumbnail design for it. And it's Saturday, and I don't have time. It's just me. So that's the reality of it. I'm not. It's not like I'm chilling, and that's why I'm not doing stuff over there. The last week of December, I was staying up till 2 or 3 every single day trying to get the next day's video edited. And I'd wake up the next day and I'd start writing and then filming and then editing. And it's just 12, 13, 14-hour days to get the videos out. So I just don't have time. And that's the reason I haven't done more with that. Some windows I have time to do more. Others I have less. What name? I know you don't like older movies, but what would be your favorite pre-1970s? I mean, I wouldn't use the phrase "I don't like older movies." That's not because then that implies things that are not true. That's not where I default to. There are plenty of movies in there that I do enjoy. I think the Clint Eastwood westerns, the spaghetti westerns, stuff like The Great Escape, things like Magnificent Seven. A lot of them are westerns. North by Northwest, The Wizard of Oz, of course, a classic. So, just off the top of my head, that's just not where I default to. I don't really like using the language of I don't like older movies because I think that misrepresents and it's too definitive of a statement. Shashank, Sean, when your channel grows bigger and hits 1 million subs, I generally think this will happen in the near future. Would you be up for writing an autobiography about yourself? A lot of people in my age group are starting out on YouTube to have you as an inspiration. I mean, I'm open to a lot of things. My life story is pretty interesting. I mean, I was a pastor for 8 years and rehab when I started my YouTube channel and all kinds of other little adventures along the way. So I think there is something there to be said that is could be amusing, depressing, and all kinds of other emotions all along the way while having an inspiring, helpful message. So I'd be totally open to it. You know, will I ever hit 1 million subs? I don't know. It like to get explosive growth in the movie space is adding 100,000 subs per year. 200,000 subs per year is a lot to add in the movie space. So to get to 1 million subs would require like really insane growth for like 4 years. So that's where it's tough to like, could it ever happen? Sure. And I'm doing my best to try and set things up and make the best content I can. And 2020 was a pretty big setback considering the type of content I make, but who knows what's going to happen. It's a crazy world, and I'd be open to sharing my story. Rich Reviews, thoughts on John Wick creators doing a Dungeons and Dragons TV series? Seems like a very weird mashup. I don't know if that's a thing that's been announced or if you're just kind of pitching something, but there's not much in John Wick in their style that would help me understand what they would do with Dungeons and Dragons. So I just hear that and I go, I don't know. I'd have to have a lot more information to even have an opinion on it because it just feels like two different things being combined together. Game Ran, your take on Lord of the Rings reminds me of my take on the Matrix trilogy. I like the movies. I find the rules of this universe confusing. I get it's virtual reality, but these movies mess up my brain. Yeah, it's pretty well, I think that it's interesting that feels like the conversation now people talk about the trilogy. Everybody I know that's my age, they're like, oh yeah, I love the first one. I don't care about the second two. The first one's a classic. I don't care about the other two. That's basically my take on it too. Yeah, it's pretty wild universe and rules. I'm fascinated what they're going to do with this fourth one. Matt G, what direction do you think the MCU should take the X-Men? I would do a reboot back to pick a classic era of X-Men. In the one sense, we've been getting X-Men movies for 20 years, but in another sense, it's been 15 years since we got a normal X-Men movie because they finished that original trilogy and then it's like, okay, let's do a Wolverine origin story and then we'll do X-Men the First Class and then we'll do kind of this time travel one that's First Class. It's in the 70s and so we've had the X-Men this whole last decade, but it was always a novelty version of it in a different decade or with ingredients swapped around. You go back to the core of it and clear everything out. You could pick whatever is the most interesting set of X-Men, the best storylines, and you just go back to it, reset, and tell a traditional X-Men story as the ensemble. Chucky X is the mentor, Magneto's the villain. You just go back to what they did now over 20 years ago and go back to that. Except obviously modern aesthetics in the MCU, maybe the changes in the snap, maybe with the multiverse, it just creates the scenario, mutants start showing up, boom, bring the X-Men in. But just do it traditional. You don't need an angle on it. The whole last decade, the last 15 years of X-Men movies are doing an angle on it. I don't want an angle, I just want the X-Men. Crashing Coyote, FYI, the UFC fights are live on ABC for free for the first time ever tonight from 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested, first time UFC is on TV or any live stream website for free. Very cool, very cool. Might look into that. Simon Adkins, will you rank all the Batman actors again after the new movie? Will you rank all the Batman movies? Yep, I will do all of that. I'll probably review the movies leading up to the release, besides Nolan, because I already did those. review all the other ones, and then it'll come out, and I will do the movies, I'll do the actors, I'll do the final fights, we'll do all of it. Like, everything is coming. When Batman comes out, it is gonna rain Batman content from my channel. I want to do all those ones. I wish, like, it kind of even, like, right now with everything slow, like, I feel like, should I do, like, those, some of those are just locked in. I know they'll be hit contents if I did it today with no context for doing it. And I need that right now where there's not a lot of movies coming out. But I don't want to do it now if I know I'm going to do it again in a year. So I'm going to do all of it. Dayton, when do you think you'll make it to big 500,000? I don't know. It's so difficult to predict where things are headed. In 2018 and 2019, I added like 70, 80,000 subscribers each of those years. Last year, I added, I think, 30,000. So half of what I did the 2 years before. And it kind of makes me go, I don't know what's going to happen. And even this last month where I had a real big uptick in views with everything that I did, subscriber growth was the best it's been in 6 months, but it wasn't 2019, it wasn't 2018 numbers. So it's tough to predict some of that stuff. Like at my current pace, at the pace I've been going the last year, it'll never happen. If at the pace of some of the numbers that were happening in 2019, 2018, it could happen sooner. But it's just tough to say when you have my channel covers hit movies. It does rankings related to big franchises. When that stuff doesn't come out, I've still got subscribers that love my content, but the new people that kind of gives the subscriber growth doesn't happen. So I got enough views last year to be sustainable, but it wasn't like a growth year really at all. Jay Studert, how do you feel when someone spoils movies or TV shows for you? I get very angry. Like, I'll have people, and I haven't had a ton of these. I haven't had a ton of this. But I have had a handful of times where I just get it. I'm real active in my DMs on Instagram. I respond to almost all of them. And I'll just get in there. Hey, man, what did you think about this character dying in today's episode? like I just woke up. Like, I just woke up, and it's there. I think, like, even on, it's been a month now, so I think you say this, but the big surprise with the returning character at the end of The Mandalorian, I got on my phone right after I watched it in my DMs, and someone was like, what did you think about that character showing up? And I had to say, like, dude, I've watched it, so you didn't spoil anything, but don't do that. Please ask me before you spoil something, because if you had spoiled that for me, I would have just blocked you on the spot, because I don't trust you anymore. And that's in a way that would be very bad. So I get mad. And so if someone violates my DMs with spoiling stuff, they potentially get blocked. The Disney Lord, are you undefeated in movie trivia in your house since you've seen so many movies? There's not really movie trivia in my house. There's no one to compete with me. So, sure. But, I mean, it doesn't say anything. Zachary, which MCU actors would you swap with DCU actors? Example, Chris Evans is Superman, Henry Cavill is Captain America. Well, I wouldn't do Henry Cavill as Captain America. Having a British person playing Captain America, I know it's just a nationality, but Captain America, I mean, there's a side to it even with Superman. It's a little bit strange that it's a guy that's truth, justice, the American way, and he's British, but so I would raise some eyebrows for me, but same reason, like, feel like you need to have a British actor or someone from the United Kingdom playing James Bond. Somebody just feel like there's something to that. I don't have anything that comes to mind. Off the top of my head, I couldn't do a swap like that because it's not. The actor has to fit the version, and different actors fit different versions, and that's where what if you just swap these two people? I don't know. I'd have to know what the movie was. Carlin Nixon, would you ever consider doing a top 20 sports ranking? Yeah, I might have been considering it for 2 years. It's just a matter of, do I think people would watch it? Do I think it would do well enough? I just don't know. Iker, have you seen Harley Quinn? If you mean the TV show, no, I have not. David Patterson, I just started watching Breaking Bad, Wacky. And that's one, it gets better as you go along. So you watch the beginning, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I don't know if it's the best TV show ever. And then you start getting into like season 3 and you're like, I can't stop watching in season 4, and then your heart's ripped out in season 5, and it's real good as you go along. Matchy Theaters, Bayou still open? Yep. They're offering private screen rentals? Yep. Bringing your content or select one of their movies? I don't know. I don't think you can bring your own stuff in. They have like a big set that you could choose, but I don't think you can show your own movie in there that I'm aware of. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I haven't looked that much into it, but they're still open and they're doing private screenings. Gamerman, do you watch How It Should Have Ended videos? Yes, I watched many How It Should Have Ended videos, and we have to. My son loves them, but a lot of them are violent or have other inappropriate stuff that we don't want him to watch. So then we have to be careful with that. Ryan Peterson, not sure if you've answered this already. What would you think if Feige built a Star Wars series? So he's been announced that he's doing a Star Wars movie. That's been said. It was announced actually over a year ago, and we just don't know what it is. We don't have any updates on it. What do I think about that? It's tough to say because the magic of Kevin Feige isn't that he did one movie that was really good. The magic of Kevin Feige is that the MCU as a whole. So and he's been doing that for 13 years now, really 14 years now, 15 years now. So it's kind of it's tough to say, hey, what would you think about him leaving that thing to do just this one thing? Well, I don't know, because I don't have a point of reference for that. That's not what he's done the last 15 years. He's brilliantly done this one thing over here, and this one thing has a lot of stuff involved in it. It's all very cool. So I don't know. I mean, I'm open to it. I just don't like when they announce he's doing a Star Wars movie, and at the same time they announce they're going to do 1,000 Disney Plus TV shows while still cranking out 3 movies per year. Kevin Feige, unless they've cloned him, there's only so much of him to go around, and that maybe is my biggest fear. Rich Reviews, what would you do if you won the lottery? I would take the lump sum, and I would... the lottery can be a lot of different numbers, so let's just pick something like $4 million that's not obscene, but it's enough that it changes the game for you. Let's assume $4 million is actually only $2 million. I would get an advisor to figure out the best way to save $150,000 for each of my kids' education. I would replace my car. Wouldn't probably even get anything all that interesting. We'd probably move houses, switch houses, nothing too fancy, and then we just put a bunch of it in investments or something like that. I wouldn't do anything interesting. Like we'd take a real vacation or something. Like we haven't taken a real vacation ever with our family, so we would do that. But there wouldn't be anything terribly extravagant. That's where people get messed up with their finances, is that they win the lottery and then they go bananas. Like, my car's 13 years old, so it makes sense to replace it. My wife just got a new car, so I need a new car. Legitimately, that's a thought. We're saving so that when we need a new car, we don't have to get a payment on it. That's removing debt and risk is normally where I default on everything, and then we do some sort of exotic fun vacation. But everything else, I just kind of keep it in the bank and have a gigantic safety net that. The change on my channel would probably be that it would create a scenario where I could afford. I'd probably invest it into my company that is my YouTube channel and get an editor and maybe someone to help with social media or something like that. And so that I could just focus on being talking head guy. Someone else could do some of that other stuff. And there you go. That's probably the fun answer to it, is that my channel, I could do more of the stuff that only I can do. Zach, who are some other YouTubers you like watching? So, of course, Pitch Meetings with Ryan George, Dude Perfect. I've been watching a lot of Mark Rober. The last month, a lot of Mark Rober. Guys named Viking Samurai, that's been an up-and-comer from this last year that talks about a lot of 80s, 90s action movies. Van Damme, Stallone. Minty's Comedic Arts does videos on facts about stuff. So this is off the top of my head. Iker, have you seen New Rockstar's YouTube channel? I'm aware of it. I know they exist. I don't remember which ones they are. They're not one that I follow. So I just have no thoughts on them whatsoever. I don't know enough about them. I absolutely know they exist, but I don't know. Maybe if I Sometimes I get confused as the faces and which goes with which. So, but they're not one that I follow. The Disney Nerd. The final question for me. One got to go. Back to the Future trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, Apes trilogy. One's got to go. Oh, I mean, I have a ranking of um, best trilogies out there. So I have a trilogies ranking that, in theory, would have my answer to this. Off the spot, I would say Apes trilogy because Back to the Future is too important to me, and Batman is too important to me, and it's Nolan. So Apes trilogy I love, but it doesn't tie to something that's as important to me. Gamer Manor, wonder why Edward Furlong did not return for T3, because if you think about it, at the time T3's release, he would have been the correct age. Yeah, I mean, I think I think he had some personal troubles. I think he didn't transition well into adult life, and so I think there was some of that involved in it. I don't want to speculate too much on that, but I don't think that he was someone in the early zeros that they went, this guy should lead a big blockbuster. I don't think they could trust him enough for that. Ryan Peterson, do you think Kurt Russell would have made Han Solo as iconic as Harrison Ford did? No. No, I mean I love Kurt Russell. He's way up here for me. I think Harrison Ford is in that top tier of movie stars. I think there's a little bit more cheese and ham with Kurt Russell, and also I think Harrison Ford just right out of the gate was so refined in what he was doing. So I don't think he's quite on the level of Harrison Ford. I love him to death, but Harrison Ford I think is a next level movie star performer, and it's amazing that he's never gotten any of them fancy Oscars. Landon, maybe you already answered this. I'm joining late, but did you see the Willis Wonderland trailer? I'm glad that a lot of people are signing up to your Patreon. This content is truly worth it. Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate that. No, we haven't talked about it at all. I did watch it. If you guys don't know, it's like Nicolas Cage gets a job at this amusement park, and then these kids warn him, like, hey, these things are going to come to life and kill you. And then it turns out, they're like, he's not locked in there with them. They're locked in there with him, and he starts beating these animatronic creatures to death. It looks deliciously bizarre and weird. I'm pretty pumped for it. Zachary, have you ever accidentally spoiled a movie for somebody? Yeah, I'm sure I have. I'm sure I have many times. I mean, anyone that you've talked about movies enough, you have. No, the story I have on this is for Blade Runner 2049. There's a piece of information that was withheld from the marketing that's revealed very early in the movie. Like, it's just kind of, the movie just kind of puts it out there. It's not a big twist. It's not a big reveal. The marketing doesn't say it, though. So I put out my review for Blade Runner 2049, and it wasn't thinking about that. And so I just said this piece of information. And I had to pull the review because almost instantly people were like, dude, you just spoiled this. Dude, you just spoiled this. And having seen the movie, it's not a big deal in the movie, but they didn't reveal it in the trailers. So I felt bad about that. So I pulled the video, edited that 10 seconds out, and put it back up. But, yeah. Iker, final question. What will be the videos next week? I don't know, actually. I have a list. I post on my community tab my schedule, and that'll happen today or tomorrow. I'll kind of decide that. It'll probably be Monday or Tuesday, a Cobra Kai Karate Kid Final Fights ranking. Probably a podcast on Wednesday. Maybe Star Wars villains ranked, live action villains ranked with Mandalorian, WandaVision review, and then maybe my Blu-ray collection. That's what's on my mind. So that's not confirmed. Matt G, they just opened a Chick-fil-A by me. It's good. You like them? Yeah, we eat at Chick-fil-A all the time. And I actually know the owner of the two Chick-fil-A's closest to our house. He's a really good guy. And actually, whenever I went full-time on YouTube, I posted on my Facebook page, hey, going full-time on YouTube, got some free time. Anyone want to just meet up and talk? And the owner of the local Chick-fil-A that I'm Facebook friends with, and I'd never gotten together with him before this, he was like, hey, I'd love to get together, just kind of hear your story about what does it mean to even go full-time on YouTube. So I met up with him. And so doesn't actually say much at all about Chick-fil-A, but I worked at Chick-fil-A for 3 years. I was a manager at Chick-fil-A when I was still in high school. I was a manager at a local Chick-fil-A, and then I got fired, which is a less fun story, and I still not sure exactly what happened. It's one of those things that I think they promoted me based off my raw talent, but my maturity didn't match my talent. Um, as you can imagine, I'm not the most mature person for my age and wasn't when I was 18, 19, 20 either. And so, but I also had talent and with people and getting stuff done. I'm good at getting stuff done. So I think they promoted me above where I belonged. Rich Reviews, will you be watching the Rams Packers game tonight? Nope. I'll watch the Super Bowl. That'll be my football for the year, I imagine. David Patterson, if you were to send if I if I were to send you a free legal link to watch The King of Comedy, would you? Um I mean, it's on my mind to watch it. Would I watch it immediately? I don't know when I would watch it. I mean, uh, keep in mind when you're me. There's literally a list of 100 movies that I need to watch over the next 4 months for videos, rankings, things I'm looking to do. Plus, I get a lot of fan mail. People like, hey, can you watch this? Can you watch this? Can you watch this? And then there's a bunch of movies that other people are recommending to me. And this is all before we even get to what does my wife want to watch and what do I want to watch and what do my kids want to watch. There's just a lot of kind of expectations on me to watch things. So, like, it's to do what I do, to cover the movies I cover with rankings and everything that I do and reviews. I watch a ton of movies, but there's ones that it's regimented for me, so it's tough to say yes to a question like that. I don't know if I would. Jay Sutter, what kind of music do you listen to? I enjoy classic rock, a lot of 80s, 90s, early zeros stuff, rock, pop punk, all kinds of stuff. Zachary, would you rather see the Batman tomorrow by yourself at home or wait until 2022 to see it in a theater with a crowd of people? It would actually be horrible to watch it at home tomorrow because then I would have to be quiet for a year. I couldn't. All my coverage on it. Hey, I've already seen it. This trailer covers it well, though. There's a side to it of having to know stuff that other people don't know. That's a burden. Gamer Man, what are your thoughts on Laurel Lance and the character's treatment as the show went along? Both of them. She was. I think that they probably should have kept a more traditional route. I don't think that they should have. Was it season 4 where the thing happens to her where there has to be a second version of her? I don't want to say too much, spoil too much. I wish that they would have just kind of played out the normal version of that. Let her be Black Canary. I don't know if it's because they realized that they'd gotten themselves in trouble and people like Felicity too much, and therefore that people were rooting for that. Therefore, they couldn't go down the traditional comic book true storyline and have the Black Canary Lance family member. I don't know what exactly it was, but I think that they wrote themselves into a bit of a corner, so it got weird. I think that it would have been better if they played it out more traditional. Crashing Cardi, what are your thoughts on Zachary Levi and Brandon Routh saying they want to work together again? Both were great in Chuck. I would like to see Routh to be in Shazam 2, if not bringing in The Rock's Black Adam. I mean, sure. I mean, if there's a script, I in general just want Brandon Routh to get more work. He's had kind of an odd career because obviously he was Superman, and for whatever reason that didn't translate into greater success. And he's kind of, he's had a career, he's had work, and of course he's been on Legends of Tomorrow, and I love that he kind of embraces all of it. He has fun with it. I love all of that, but I wish that he also would just kind of have more big roles. So I would be for it, yes. SL, how would you feel about a Zoe Kravitz-led HBO Max show? It's impossible to say because I haven't seen her as the character yet. So it's like, hey, would you like to see this? I don't know. I don't know what their take on the character is yet. I've seen 7 seconds of her or something like that. It's just tough to like. Would this be a good idea? I don't know. Catwoman outside without Batman. I don't even know how much potential there is with that. It's kind of an odd idea. So it doesn't immediately sound like something that I would want. Jay Studert. My name is pronounced Jay Studert. Jay Studert is a common mistake people make. Jay Studert. Okay. Zachary, how it should have ended. It used to be fantastic-ish 5 years ago, but they seem to be running out of new jokes now. I mean, that's kind of the problem with some of those very tightly woven thing. Honest trailers, how it should have ended, and the one that hasn't run out of gas yet, but eventually will, is pitch meetings. You have a joke that's a fantastic idea that you want applied. You want it every single week, and then you do that long enough, and then suddenly you want more of the same, but there's only so much of the same, and so you start repeating yourself. And so, like, I don't, I loved Honest Trailers for years, and then at a certain point in time, it was like, there's just not any gas left in the tank. Carla Nixon, ranking all the fights from Rocky Creed would be awesome. I mean, it's been on my radar for a while, ever since I did the training montages. It was like, should I do training montages or final fights? And then I obviously did training montages, so it's on my radar. It might happen. The training montages one didn't get much traction, so it doesn't seem like there's urgent demand for it. So it's on my mind. Zachary, would you like to see Tobey Maguire be Tom Holland's Uncle Ben in Spider-Man 3? I'd be game for it. Sometimes it's fun to do stunt casting like that. I think part of the problem is Tobey Maguire's kind of baby-faced. So, and he's not old. He's in his 40s, and so he's like 10 years younger than Marissa Tomei. Maybe 5-6 years younger than Marissa Tomei. I'm not sure exactly how old each of them are, but he's not that old. And then he looks young. And so I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Shashank, Sean, whenever you do have time, do check out Better Call Saul. I mean, I've always planned on it. That's always been the plan. It just hasn't quite happened yet, and I fully plan to rank the seasons. I would love to know your thoughts here on Patreon, considering you're such a huge fan of Breaking Bad. It's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it just hasn't happened. Like, the nature of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, they're such big investments. I don't casually put on episodes of Breaking Bad. I commit 2 months to watching through Breaking Bad. That's what I do. And they're not shows that work well to take a break, because then you kind of lose the momentum of the story. Like, I don't want like that. And so I just rewatch them from the beginning whenever I watch them. So that's why I haven't watched Better Call Saul yet. That's the full reason, and I fully plan to watch it and rank it tied to the final season. Zachary, not sure if you remember, but I'm a fan that you talked with in June 2019 on FaceTime. You created a little video for my graduation gift. Totally fine if you don't. I know you're a busy guy. I don't necessarily. I did several of those, so I'm not sure which one exactly. I don't remember, like, off the top. Like, I couldn't say exactly which. Like, if the specific things to it, I could remember if I latched onto that. But generically speaking, I did several of those, so I don't remember which one that was. So I do apologize. Josh Myers, thoughts on Blue Streak and Basic Instinct? Blue Streak, I haven't seen it, so I don't think I've seen it. Basic Instinct, it came out in the 90s, so I was a teenager. So that movie was talked about quite a bit back at that point in time. It's a very well-made movie. Obviously, it's a large amount of sexual content. It's not one I don't normally run through movies that's sexual in my home. But yeah, I've seen it many times, and I like Paul Verhoeven as a director when he does stuff. So I think it's a really well done film, but a little saucy for the Chandler household. Crashing Comedy, I can only see Steven coming back as Oliver Spector in the Flash finale, not season finale, the series finale, or some Speed Force. I don't want time travel again. P.S. Grant's Flash is greater than Ezra's. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. And then he says, good weekend, Sean. Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I mean, if they bring him back for like a little cameo or something, I think there's some context reasons they could do that, and that's all fine. But I wouldn't want much more than that. Shashank, it's been a great stream. As always, take care. Continue to pump out great content. And Jay Studert, thoughts on Tropic Thunder? It is great. I love Tropic Thunder. It's hilarious. It's amazing that movie got made. It couldn't get made now for the obvious reasons. And ironically, it's all these people missing what the movie, all the commentary, because people don't get what a joke is, and they don't understand the difference between They don't take things in context anymore, which is frustrating. But I think it's great. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting here on Patreon. In the year 2020, it really mattered.
Doesn't look like we're getting blockbusters this year or for the next 6 months. It really matters right now. Thank you so much. Keep talking movies too much.